At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are divine creatures, creating both our own personal and our collective experience, moment to moment. We invite you to join us in the reawakening of this technology through experiment and experience the power to create and manifest. Become part of the 3%. The collective imagination.
Welcome everyone tonight. My name is Bob Wright for the Collective Imagination. Lisa is on her way to the United States, so she'll be joining us. I think she's in the airport right now. She said that she'd join us when she gets a chance, once she gets through the infamous TSA. But we're here with our other guest, Barbara in New York. Are you there?
I am. I'm here.
There she is. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing quite well. I hope everyone has had a very good holiday. Over in the United States, we had our Thanksgiving last week, and a lot of people filled up with turkey and hopefully had a good time with their families and things. I also had a nice meal with my family. Woke up this morning to find the ground completely covered with snow, which is not a good thing. I mean, it's very pretty, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a big fan of winter. Sorry for those of you who love winter. Me, I'm not a big fan. But seasons are changing over here, and nothing to do for it but to sit through it. We also have Chris Hale somewhere there in the background. Chris, are you there?
I'm here, down in Melbourne. Nice cloudy day for us here because we're just heading into late spring, summer, and I like all seasons, so it's all good.
Well, good for you. I'll switch places with you. You're about to get into your summer now, right?
Yes, we are. We've just had about 10 days of really dry weather. Had some really nice thunderstorms yesterday, so the garden's all been watered. Everything's looking a bit greener. But it's going to be an interesting summer because it could be quite hot, and we could end up with more bushfires than we've had for the last few years, which have been quite light, because prior to that we had an absolute disaster. So it'll be good. It'll be a good summer.
Speaking of that, everything's back to normal back over there in New York for you, Barbara?
Yeah, for me it's status quo.
Well, we're glad to have you back in full form again.
Thanks.
Michael and Peter are off doing their thing in Norway, I believe, still. Hopefully we'll hear from them sometime in the future. But for them, we hope they're doing well. Last week, we had a really interesting discussion, and we had opened it up to the audience, to come back with some feedback. And some of the things that we wanted to discuss tonight, was it Jeana? Jeana Wood asked about the collective energy of the grid and how we can tap into this collective energy as far as helping us in our ascension process. So we'll talk a little bit about that whole collective energy. And there's tremendous things going on, and I don't know if everyone else is feeling it. But I feel as though we are, and we talk about the shift all the time, no pun intended, but shift is definitely happening, and for those of you who are listening, we really want to hear from you, call in, If you like to call in, the number is 646-716-4598. Or if you have Skype, you can hit the little Skype button there at the top of the screen and give us a call in and let us know what you're experiencing during this time of the shift.
And Bob, if I could just jump in for a second, we do have a caller with the area code beginning with 604. I'm not sure who that is. Caller, hello, and can you tell us who you are?
Hi, Barbara. It's Diane Armitage in British Columbia.
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Well, you're welcome. And,
glad to have you here.
Yeah, and Bob, just wanted to remind you that sometime during the show we've got some interesting points that we wanted to open up to Diana and also to Jeana, because they were both kind enough to share some of their thoughts both on the board and in emails with us this week. So we've got Diana with us, and Jeana, whenever you want to call in, feel free to, and I'll just throw it back to you, Bob.
I would love to hear your stories of what's going on. Also, we want to get into some of our events that we have planned coming up. On the 12th through the 21st, this countdown to the transformation of our paradigm. And just so everyone knows, get some excitement out there for the 12th that's coming up, we're going to have daily guests, hopefully, for each day from the 12th to the 21st. We'll be on air each of those days for 1 hour from 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States and 9 a.m. in Australia, 10 p.m. in Wales. And we'll have guests including people like Chris Thomas, Tolek, Amelia Benz, Thomas Hughes, Damian Brinkley, Amaraya, the Simeon Collective, Alpha Ra, and some more. We're still waiting to hear back from a few others that we sent invitations out, but it's sure to be a great time, and we hope everyone plans for that, from the 12th to the 21st, the countdown.
Yeah, we're going to post more information on the Facebook page and on Lisa's website as once we've locked in the last couple of people. And just for everybody, keep an eye out for the events called Countdown, Time Portal Through the Transformational Paradigm.
Perfect. Everybody tune in on the webpage and find out for more information on that. Now, getting back to talking about this whole shift that's been going on and this collective energy that everyone's been feeling, I myself personally have been feeling it a lot. And this past week, I don't know what it is, but it just feels like something big is happening. Something major is shifting, and there are a lot of things that we're seeing, that we're not seeing in the mainstream media. But if you're tuned into that collective energy, you're feeling it, I'm sure. I've noticed over the past couple of months a lot of people have been moving in and out of relationships, leaving previous jobs. A lot of people have been feeling a lot of the uncomfortability of this shift, where they are no longer comfortable with the things that they were doing and the people that they were around. People are moving in and out of their lives, and there's a lot of emotional upheaval going on. Is anyone else feeling in the past week this major change in energy, like something has shifted, literally?
I felt more positive than negative, but I do know that both Jeana and Diane have some interesting perspectives on that. Diana, did you want to jump in and share some of your thoughts on that?
Okay, happy to. I have to admit, this afternoon, knowing I was coming on the radio, I just felt like I had a wagon load of rabbits in my head, wondering what to talk about, because I just feel there are so many things kind of coming to a head. And it's an inward observation, kind of. I think a lot of people are looking outward. They're looking at the state of the world and saying they don't see any change. You know, we see the traumas going on and chemtrails and talk of HAARP. On that, I feel that there's a possibility that the information that we receive about chemtrails, HAARP, and that, I used to keep a real eye on that stuff. And as of late, it's more of an inward knowing that the information they put out there about chemtrails and such, it's like a reverse placebo. It's like mind control, where they put a negative spin out there for us to view chemtrails as hazardous and all these other dangers, and where they're not really. I think it's like the mind over matter myself. There just is so much going on. Lisa last week had mentioned that her regime in the past of sun gazing, oil pulling, all of that I'm doing as well, and that she's gotten away from it. And I've noticed a similar thing in my own life, not to do with those rituals, but for instance, it's trivial sounding, but I'm not one that would commonly wear makeup and that type of thing. And lately, because I'm very health aware, lately I've been pulled to apply this stuff, and I wondered, where is that coming from? And I got thinking, is this an old programming? It's like when a person has candida in their system, the minute you try to detox and get healthy, the candida do everything they can to pull you back in. So I'm wondering if our programming, that we have layers and layers of it, and we're just going really deep now. It was just a thought.
Well, you know, getting pulled back into that old programming, it's one of those things that happens gradually. You don't even realize that that it's happening until you're actually in it, and you're like, what am I doing? You know, where's this coming from? And for me, it's other people that tend to pull me back into it, you know, because I'm being a very empathic person. I am very sensitive to what other people are feeling and what's going on around me. I don't really watch the news so much or television at all, because I believe, just like you said, Diane, a lot of times I believe that they put a lot of stuff out there, you know, almost like bait, trying to invite you into the drama. But
right.
It's the people who I love dearly and care about, you know, my family, my friends, who are dealing in different ways with this whole transformation, some not as good as others, but when you see them in turmoil and the problems that they're having, for me, sometimes it's hard not to in my feeling empathy for them, not getting pulled into the same, you know, views and perspectives, you know, because you sympathize with them at the same time, but you've got to keep a distance. You don't want to get pulled into it, and it happens quite often sometimes, you know, you don't realize it. I think that's something that we all, you know, struggle with from time to time. Chris?
Yep, for sure.
Do you have anything to add on this? Chris?
Diane?
Oh, I thought he was asking for Chris.
Yeah, is Chris still there? Or maybe he's...
I think Jeana's with us.
Yeah,
Jeana, are you there?
I did. I called in. I was bumped off, so I may not be up on what you guys were all talking about, but I guess just kind of the general vibe of what's going on.
Well, we were talking about how we can get pulled back into old programming if we're not careful, you know, and I was explaining how other people tend to do that, you know, with me when I'm feeling empathetic and sympathetic with them. Sometimes I get pulled into that drama again, and I'm like, oh, you know, what am I doing? What am I thinking? And you snap out of it, but it does happen.
Right. Right.
Hey Diana, Mike in chat is asking if you still wear multivite.
If I wear which?
Multivite?
Oh, Mike, yes, I do. Yeah, I did talk to him because I noticed a ring that he was wearing in one of his pictures. It's, I swear, identical to a Moldavite ring that I have. It's uncanny. Yeah, I love Moldavite.
Yeah, I have a little piece of Moldavite that I carry around in my the coin part of my jeans when I go out, and I just sit it on my desk during the day and put it under my pillow at night.
Exactly. I have a lot of stones, but Moldavite is the one that really works for me. Like, I just love wearing it. Yeah.
What were you saying, Jeana?
What qualities does it give you? I mean, does it ground you? Does it center you? What does it do?
Are you talking to Barbara?
Well, you, Diane.
For me, there's a whole write-up on it. I have read up on Moldavite, and I kind of pay attention to it. For me, I just feel very connected with it. It's something that you really have to check out for yourself, but I just feel very grounded with it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Barbara? What does it do for you?
For me, I still don't know what it's supposed to do. I bought a piece of it back when we were doing the Oculus show. Octavia suggested it, and I am so grateful to her for that. I found this charming little piece that I absolutely adore, and what I just find is it makes me, well, when I put it under my pillow, the dreams I have are exceptionally vivid and lifelike. And when I just have it carried around with me, I seem to I get more synchronicities, or I just feel more creative. And when I don't have it, it's not that anything is much more negative. It's just I don't notice them as much. So I'm sure that they're still happening, but they're not as they don't pop.
Right.
So I think it just has to do with just enhancing that experience, or providing, for me anyway, providing more of a electronic zing to them.
Uh-huh. Oh, cool.
That's neat that you said that you take it to bed with you. Mine is a ring, and usually I take them off at night. For the past week, I've been compelled, like in a very deep way, to wear it to bed. Now, I know I had a very elaborate dream last night. Can't tell you the details. It might be the Moldavite. All I know is I've been very pulled to make sure I put it on for bedtime. So neat that you brought that up. I will continue.
I'm not sure if I said this to you, Diane, or if I said it to Jeana, but I actually carry a little portable handheld recorder with me.
Right.
And I have it next to my bed when I sleep, so that when I do wake up with a really cool, vivid dream, I just grab it and timestamp it, so to speak, say what the date is and about what time I think it is, and then I just start talking. It doesn't always have to make sense. I just want to say whatever I can say before I lose the dream. And then when I'm able to re-listen to them, it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that now. It actually brings the whole thing back. See,
awesome.
We're going to try something like that.
Hey guys, Lisa
Harrison
is she calling in?
She's going to try. She is at the airport.
In the chat room. No, she's in the chat room and she's calling in now, I think.
Oh, I don't see her. Maybe she's going to do it here shortly, but I'll keep an eye out for her. I'm the one manning the phone.
Okay.
Could I say, bring up last week's show, the link to the Mayan elder?
Uh-huh.
He talked about the 8 minutes period, December 21st, between 21st and 23rd. Is that correct? An 8-minute span where we get this major awakening?
Yes, he did. He talked about there would be a wave of energy that would, basically, everyone would reach this spiritual awareness, this great expansiveness in consciousness. And everyone would have an idea and an appreciation of so much more about what's going on in their lives and where they are. But after that 8 minutes, it quickly dissipates, and you tend to forget, just like you mentioned, Barbara, with the dream, that it kind of fades away, and you don't remember it. So,
but aren't we getting those now? Like, I know I mentioned this to Lisa after the show. When we go hiking or when I'm out back with my horse and my mind is totally clear and open, I am getting these seriously powerful downloads, I guess you would call it.
By the way, you guys.
Oh, are you okay there?
No, that's Lisa. That's Miss Speaker at the airport. She's with us now.
Sorry, guys, you're getting all the background noise from the airport.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Oh, hi, everyone.
What airport are you at?
This is so funny and surreal, I have to tell you. Sitting in an airport.
Where are you?
Sydney
What
Terminal.
airport?
International mascot at Sydney.
Sydney, okay.
Yeah. Just checked in and I'm waiting to head to Los Angeles.
Oh.
So it's all
what
very
time
exciting.
do you leave?
Oh, I've got a couple of hours yet.
Oh, okay.
I got here early so I could try and join you for a little bit.
Lisa, Diane started talking about the 8 minutes from the Mayan video and her thoughts on that. So is it okay if she continues, or did you have something you wanted to start off with?
Absolutely. No, and I'll mute myself to get rid of all this noise for you.
All right, go for it, Diane.
Oh, no, I want to listen to Lisa.
Well, she was.
No, and you were talking, though, about your moments. And I think that, I think what, Diane, what you're trying to say is that we, anybody, and probably everybody listening to the show who has had awakening, I mean, you're not even listening to the show if you haven't been through some of the stuff that we've all been through. And we all have our own stories and own everything. But, yeah, we do have, I think, I'm jiving with you, Diane, in that we have moments of clarity.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
I'm also experiencing
pure
the exact
clarity.
same thing. Right. Where
Go ahead, Bob.
I believe that energy is available to all of us now. And I believe it's coming and it's hitting the planet, and those who are sensitive are experiencing it now. Because I have had more eureka revelation moments this year than any other time in my life. I can't tell you how many times I sat and was like, oh my God, that's why, and everything just kind of fits into place, and it's happened so many times.
You said it right there. Everything fits. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely, and this is what's really great about this show, what I love about this show, is it's one of the few places where I'm not weird. You know what I mean?
I can relate to that one.
We're all not weird together.
Or we all
don't get yourself
together.
We just did it together. That's it. Yeah.
But you talk about this to some people, especially members of your friends and family, who may not be experiencing it at the level that you are, and they look at you like, okay.
Yeah, right. It can be really a lonely place. And I went on this big tirade with my sister, one of my sisters, that I can actually talk. I can talk to her. She may go cross-eyed and blur out for a while I'm going on my little rants, but I did. I went off on her this morning, just about that. Pretty much what you're saying, Bob. It's just lonely. It's like I want to tell her some of this stuff, and I do tell her a lot. But there's a lot I hold back.
Well, and do you remember a time when you really cared about what people thought, so we didn't say anything? We were just happy little campers doing our thing, but, becoming other people when we went out in the world, so we'd fit. And now it's totally flipped. I honestly no longer care.
Are you noticing, are you noticing people coming back now? Like,
Bob, I was just going to say that very thing. Since the eclipse, when everything, from my observation, has gone nuts since the solar eclipse, and I've had people now who they kind of knew I had this website and I talk to people online, but they don't really know, what I do or what it's all about, and felt that, I might have some answers as to why their life is currently the way it is and why it's all just gone crazy in the last week or two. And it's been, they're not on video. I can't see you. Vera's with me. She's sitting next to me and she's waving at the computer thinking you can all see her. You can't.
Who is?
Hey,
okay, I'm waving back.
They're all waving back. So yeah, exactly that, coming out of the woodwork and sort of doing a turnaround and looking for answers as to why things are just the way they are.
I've had old friends that used to be in the church with me call me up and ask me, what does 11:11 mean? And I just laugh because I know what's happening to them, But it's just kind of ironic. It comes full circle that, that they're coming back and they're asking you these questions. And they recognize that you're the one to go to because now it's becoming one of those things that's very hard to ignore for anybody.
Exactly.
Something's going on.
Yeah,
like
I
back
have
in
to
the
say,
day when they rolled their... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. I just wanted to put in my 2 pence about not caring what other people think. 100% with you there. I had a very interesting conversation with my brother, his partner, and my niece last Thursday night. And we ended up talking about ETs. And from the size of my niece's eyes, she was rather gobsmacked. But because I've actually been talking to my brother for a while about this stuff, he just took it all in stride, despite the fact for the first time we had a discussion in front of someone else. And I didn't care. And that's a big shift. So I totally agree. This is the point where things have shifted enough and come to the foreground enough, it just won't matter anymore. And everyone else is going to be feeling it too.
Yeah. It's all part of the fear thing, right? And fear is threaded through everything on this planet. And it's like the ultimate control, whether it's fear of peers or, family members shunning you. Oh, sorry?
Changing people's paradigm, beliefs, that they've been fed all their lives. It is scary for them. You're right.
But even when you're talking to someone and they're rolling their eyes at you in the moment, you've still planted a seed. That's how I look. Because someday there's going to be an event of some sort, even though they rolled their eyes and scoffed you, walked away, it doesn't matter, because I know deep down that at some point in their life there will be an event that will go, oh, blink, I got it. And I think the seed planting is so important now, because when you do look out at humanity, and my husband experiences it too at work. Like people are just, they don't want to hear it, but you still planted that seed, and at some point something is going to, germinate that seed, and they're going to wake up. And I think that's all part of it, and I think that's why a lot of us are just awake sooner, and we don't have the fear of the peer pressure. So we go about our business with it.
Well, Diane, I was curious when you were saying on the Collective Imagination Facebook page, with respect to the 8 minutes, that you actually feel like you're having, little snips of enlightenment now. And could you expand on that and share some of that with us?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a pencil or a paper to write them down, but it happens quite often now. And whether I am up hiking or just out in the backyard mulling around with the horse, it always happens when my mind is just open and I'm not thinking. I get these, like Bob was saying, they are perfect knowingness. And I like what Bob said there, everything fits. It has to be divine, because I'm coming down the mountain and I'm actually going, whoa. That is so amazing. And then my husband will come walking down behind me, and I share it. But the other thing, words fall short.
Yes.
That knowing that filters down into you, it is a chemical reaction in the body. You can feel it. I try to articulate it. Mm-hmm. I think people have to actually have been induced with that knowing for the words, because now I am feeling the words when people talk to me more than hearing them. And I think when you have had the similar kind of, I don't know if it's a download, but the same one, if I were to articulate it to you what I had, you would know exactly what I meant. But people that haven't, they look at you and go, oh, that's cool. But they're not really, you can't put it into words. And they do dissipate. By the time I'm off the mountain, I remember kind of what it was. So Barbara, I am going to start either taking a recorder or that pad and paper. But it made me, when I heard about that last week on the 8-minute thing, I thought, well, I'm in that now. It has to be, because these infusions are so, I could not possibly imagine it on my own human mind. Like, it has to be coming in from another source.
Yeah, I feel that too. And you know what? There's this clarity. That's totally. The only word that really fits. There's this clarity that I get. And especially when, people who are not so awake and they come to you and they want to talk, and you hear about their problems, and almost instantly you could see to the core of their problem. You understand exactly what's going on, where they are at in their lives, understand exactly where they're in the process of resolution, and all of this information is right there in front of you, plainly to see, and you can't convey it to that other person. The most frustrating thing.
Very. I totally get that.
I think just, the human words, or we're speaking the, quote, English, or what I call the American language, because I don't think I speak like the people do in Britain. But our language is so limited, and when we do get those moments of huge clarity, that it is beyond words. And I'm pretty good with words. I was, an ace in writing and all of that good stuff in school growing up. So my vocabulary is, I would say, pretty good. But sometimes I just cannot find the correct way to say it. It's like and it has been that way for this, I would say, the better part of this year for me. But those moments of clarity not only are they encompass more than just words. They encompass emotion, feelings, and a whole range of things.
I was about to say it's all-encompassing, and you said it right there. That's why I laughed. It is. You're absolutely right. It's all-encompassing. When you have these very profound downloads, it's all-encompassing. It's the whole world and everyone. It's yeah.
One of the things that I've heard talked about is that part of this evolution of human consciousness, that we would start to embody these new senses, new feelings, new abilities, and I believe that we're all experiencing this to some level. This ineffable sense that you get that comes over you, and especially and I could feel it if I'm traveling around through the city, I can feel. How you said you feel the words more than what you hear the sound of the word. Mm-hmm. I can literally feel the pockets of energy, in different neighborhoods and different, and I'm like, this is better, this is lighter, and I'm aware of all of this stuff, other stuff, that's going on, you know, that everyone else is just looking out and they're seeing trees fly by, and I'm in this whole other experience that, you know, typically unless you're with someone else, you know, who's going through it too, you can't talk about, but it's there. It's definitely there.
Well, I know that Lisa had an experience like that a couple of months ago where she was quiet and kind of off the grid on the internet and stuff for a while. And when she came back on, she had an I want to say epiphanotic, but I know that's not a word.
It's a new word.
It'll work.
Download that just blew my mind. And once she got through the first few words of trying to express it, it was they got faster and faster, and the words were just flying out of her mouth. It was wonderful. So, Lisa, do you remember that?
You're muted, Lisa.
She's probably trying to fend off all the
people.
Sorry.
She's just gone out for a minute. Sarah here. Hi.
Yeah, signing autographs?
Yeah, probably.
So when she gets back, I'm sure she can express that she can totally relate to that, because I just was laughing because what she was sharing was like so fantastical, but realistic. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I just couldn't believe that something that I'd never thought about, that profound, just came to her in an instant after being quiet for a short while.
Mm-hmm. Well, fantastic, yeah.
Some of these, these new insights, and I don't know how we'll invent a word to come up eventually to think of what this is, but these revelations, these moments of clarity, and in one of these moments of clarity, and we had talked about it, I believe, Diane, you had mentioned it on the Facebook comment, is coming to terms with this old paradigm and this old regime as it's taking its last breath. And I've come to understand the role that the dark has played in my life. The antagonist. I look through the path that I've walked, and coming to this understanding, this awakening, this awareness of where I am right now. And I look back through all the different events and experiences in my life, and I understand that had I not been pushed, to a point where, and these aren't pleasant things that, any of us have gone through. You talk to any really enlightened person, someone who's really awake and aware, and you hear the history of their life, more times than not, as a rule rather than the exception, you're going to hear a really sad story.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to hear about pain, you're going to hear about suffering, you're going to hear about betrayal, you're going to hear about, guilt and anger and resentment, but all of these things, look at what it's done, it's under pressure. It's under intense pressure that a piece of coal is turned into a diamond. It's under intense heat that gold is purified into its purest form. And all of us have been through the fire. Yeah, and it's been one of those, journeys that just kind of, I look back now and I see nothing but I can bless the event, and bless the whole process.
On the same page, Bob, because like you, I've gone through things in my life too, and I do honestly. I look back and I bless those more traumatic experiences that, as they seemed at the time, those were all a catalyst for my growth. And in the recent years, the last couple of years, I had the kind of my own little epiphany that if you're looking outward in the world at the controllers or the cabal or whatever you want to label them, I view them as catalysts for our growth as well. All of it, all the negatives that we perceive as negative.
What I can say to that, and excuse the French, but some of the best plants grows in heaps of shit.
Yeah, good one. I need a bumper sticker.
Well, you know what's interesting about this topic is that both Jeana and Diane addressed it from a different point, but they addressed it relative to the time in and around 1221. Jeana was talking about the role of corruption, and I would love for her to expand on that because it's quite interesting. And then along the same lines, Diane was talking about once the event takes place, what can we expect from the takers, so to speak, the psychopaths and the gangs, and et cetera. So if it's okay, I thought maybe Jeana could share a little bit about what she was thinking about with respect to corruption, and then Diane, when you find the right moment, jump in and share your, similar yet slightly different take on it.
Okay, well, with regard to corruption, I don't think 12/21 is a magic date for even bringing that up. Corruption is a big topic, or it's simple. And I've tried to kind of pull it into a simplified form of anything that's sacred and beautiful and pure is taken and twisted or turned bad, and it can be a pretty flower that somebody steps on. It can be a sacred symbol, like the swastika is actually a sacred symbol if it's turned the other way around. I think it means universal life force or something like that. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. But, and even the five-pointed star turned upside down. If you look at the Republican elephant thing with the 3 stars in it, they're all turned upside down. So they're corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's corruption of anything sacred.
And what role do you think that plays, or how were you viewing that in terms of the shift that we were talking about?
Well, in terms of the shift, really nothing. It just is. It has been for a long time. And it may be something that we might want to do set an intent, but I'm not quite sure how we would tackle that one. I think that a lot of people don't like to look at corruption, but I think that being able to look at it straight in the face and see it for what it is does change the game. You may not do anything actually, but as long as you see it and know it and look at it and energetically kind of go, oh, hell no. It changes the rule. It changes the game, if that makes any sense. So
if you take what Jeana's saying and you sprinkle in a little bit about what Bob was talking about, Bob, do you see some of these things she's talking about as being necessary? I think Lisa coined it the other day when we were having our conversation, something like that's evil's just playing its role, its necessary role, or something like that.
Yeah, but we don't have to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I found sometimes it's important to take the path of what you're not in order to discover what you are. And a lot of these, this corruption, what it's putting in front of us, they're putting in front of us all the things that we don't want so that we can be clear about what it is that we do want. How do you want to live? How do you want to feel? How do you want to work? How do you want to provide for yourself? By experiencing all the things that we don't want, we get very, very clear on what it is that we do. And without, experience is all relative. It's all, we live in a dualistic world. You know, you can't experience being tall in the absence of short people. It doesn't happen. You know? And a lot of people, you know, I've come to understand that, you know, you have to really be careful of what you're asking for. Because if you're asking to experience mastery, then anything that's not mastering is going to rush into your life. Anything that is not perfect is going to suddenly be surrounded around you. You know, people and experiences that you would consider beneath your awareness suddenly starts to rush in around you. And these people with all this drama and all these, you know, psychopath, corrupted, you know, people start to surround around you. But really, if you want to experience mastery, you can't experience it in the absence of the opposite. And
okay, well, I understand that the dualistic world, and I guess we're supposed to be like moving out of it, but shouldn't we be kind of perhaps looking at things in a triality way, like instead of one or the other, look at it from both sides?
Well, I think that's what happens once you become aware of it.
Right.
You reach that third neutral point where you're not looking at either as good or bad, but both of them as being necessary for the end result, you know, which is moving beyond duality.
So, Bob, are you meaning as an enlightened person, we can stand in the center of absolute chaos and turmoil and not be of it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect.
Right, a trialistic.
Because you'll reach a point where you are authentically yourself, and you can't be anything but that. It will, you know, as we're going through all this clearing and we're going through this transformation, you start to get very crystal clear about what you will tolerate and what you won't. You know, I mean, for me, I spent so much time of my life, quote unquote, in the closet. It is repulsive for me to be hypocritical. It's just not in my nature. And you're going to start to get very, very clear about who you are.
Speaking of who we are, Lisa just wanted to tell us who she is now, because she's on her way to America where she's going to become somebody else. So, Lisa, are you there?
Yeah, I don't know about becoming somebody else, but I'm...
segue. Give me a break, girlfriend.
Oh, okay, thank you. You did a nice job, though. I wanted to say, because it's starting to get a bit noisy around here, even more so, I'm going to log off, but before I did, I just wanted to say the energy on the show today is lovely, because it's so nice to be surrounded by some really beautiful feminine energy. The show is usually so male-dominant. It's usually just Barbara and I on our own. And I just wanted to say I'm really enjoying listening, because it's beautiful. And thank you to Diane. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten the other name.
Jeana.
For ringing in and being such a big part of today's show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
And thank you to the usual crew. And I will I'll give you a call when I land, guys.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Happy travel.
Safe trip.
Have a good flight.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a great show.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye, Lisa.
Well, one other thing, too, though, Diane was talking about when... well, maybe I'll just let her talk about it with respect to the psychopaths. And I love the clever way that you said... let me just read from your post on the board.
Yeah, would you?
Yeah, you said, also regarding if there is an event, I am able to make do and manage our home. However, what about the not-so-enlightened ones, the psychopaths and gangs, etc.? The first thing that will happen, say, if the grid goes down, is that they will be the takers. Or will the event just shift them out of here? And I love that. Just the visual of them being shifted out.
Mm-hmm. that would just be perfect. It would fit. right? Because going into this period, I don't think that there's going to be some huge thing happening on these dates. I think we've been in it for a long time, and it's this growth and awakening that's been taking place. But aside from the awakening, the grids, right? Like we're ready emotionally, spiritually, all of that. I know this body is a vehicle here, and I'll just carry on in another realm. However, you're at home, you have your family, you have your place, you have your neighbors. Grid is down. Like we live about an hour out of Vancouver. Sure, it's all great right now, but the first thing that happens, if all these people stay intact, they loot and bust in windows at the end of a hockey game. You know what I mean? Like, so grid is down. They're just going to flood out to all the places that they can, and so then what? So
that's a really good question. I'm just curious, like Bob and Chris, and even the people in the chat. What's your take on that?
May I speak to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah. If you look at the situation, I'll just give you my perspective. I've been sitting listening to this wonderful chatter of angels. As Kate of Gaia likes to say, and I'm including Bob in that. I'm not actually being sexist in that. The overall situation that forms in my mind when I sit and think about what this event could be, how it can unfold, I keep coming back to 7 billion people, 7 billion different journeys. Now, I'm going to do what you shouldn't do, and I try and classify them into just two groups. There's the people who are awake and aware that at an energetic level, at a spiritual level, things are going to get a shot in the arm of some kind. And then there's a group who are completely unaware. Now, for the type of event that I'm feeling that we're in for is actually at its core energetic. We're going to get a blast of energy that we get every 25,000 years or 12,500 years, so to mark our movement through the position in the solar system. And that's fine, but how will it play out? Now, for the people who've gone through the process of realizing that this change is imminent, and we've got 5 people on the call here who've all had completely different life experiences and have essentially had whatever they perceived of life for the first part of their lives, they had it deconstructed at some point and have now arrived where they are and are in a position to view things from a completely different perspective. Now, for me, that's 3 years. For Bob, it's all his life. I'm not sure about Barbara or the other 2 ladies, but essentially we grew up in the Matrix to some point, then we had it deconstructed over a period of time. Now, the way I see the event playing out for those people who aren't aware of what's going on is they're going to have it deconstructed in a month. Okay, and I don't necessarily fear that the grid is going to go down and all that really bad stuff is going to happen. It might happen in bits and pieces, but what I see happening is the really obvious thing is that the Federal Reserve contract is being cancelled, ended on the 21st of December or thereabouts. This will cause a massive shift in the financial industry. This is going to be the source of the wake-up call for those people who've yet to realise that things are on the move. And that's going to be pretty scary for them. And I certainly think part of our role is in assuring those people that it's actually a good thing. You know, it's something that has to happen. If they hadn't worked out yet, the corruption in the system is completely endemic and has ruined it. They're about to find out. So, going back to the 7 billion people, 7 billion different journeys, I absolutely think that's what's going to happen. And really, the fear aspect of it has been hyped up by the system, by the you-know-whos, because that's the way they work. That's the way they've always heard it. Yeah. And I think we've got to all resist the urge to go there. I'd only go there in this fashion. Do some sensible things. Make sure you've got some extra food, some extra water, whatever you feel you're comfortable with to ride out a few days of confusion and what have you. That's the minimum you should do. I wouldn't go and jump in bunkers because I just don't feel it's going to work out that way. But look to the financial situation as being the hinge pin that's going to get plucked out of the joint and cause things to shift for those people. So that's what I'm thinking at the moment. But at an energetic level, I think there's going to be many, many different experiences that people will have in whatever energetic event takes place. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and on the energetic part too, I had this thought the other day, like if you analyze yourself where you are now, and with all your insight and knowings, and how that was 20 years ago. Can you imagine how much more? I mean, right now we think, wow, we're getting all of this downloaded. How amazing will that be as time moves on? When we look back at this, we're going to think we were just babies. I really think that knowingness and the insights that we're going to get will really eliminate any of these other three-dimensional issues.
I definitely feel that what you were saying, Chris, is and Diane and Jeana, all of you, is definitely playing a part in this transformation. I mean, think about what you just said, Chris, about the money situation. I mean, if everyone would just stop for a moment and consider how different your life would be if you weren't getting paid for you doing what you're doing. If you stopped receiving a paycheck, all of a sudden, there was no money available, would you still be doing what you're doing? And I would say very few people would say, yes, I would still be doing what I was doing. I would volunteer to do what I'm doing. But a lot of people are doing what they're doing just for a paycheck. I was here, and we were talking about, how people start to come back. And today, one of my, an old friend of mine, and he was actually a nurse. And he was one of the nurses that attended to me when I was in a nursing home when I had first had my accident, and I was quite still incapacitated. And he was extraordinarily kind to me. And we've kept in touch even though I've left the nursing home and everything. And he came over and he was visiting and we were talking. And he was saying, how there's so many nurses and so many people in the medical profession that are only there for a paycheck. They're there because it's the only industry that's hiring right now, and it shows in the way that they do their work. Without money as the impetus, all of a sudden our motivations change. If you're not going to be motivated by money, then what's going to motivate you? You're going to be motivated by what it is that gives you fulfillment, what it is that brings you joy, what it is that you're going to do what you want to do. You're going to do what you love to do. Because without the paycheck, people's choices suddenly get drastically different. And I think that's one of the things that may be necessary for people.
Yeah, let me just say, though, that I did invite a friend of mine who is a doctor to listen to the show tonight. So if you're listening, he definitely is in it, I believe, for the love of just helping people. He's an orthopedic surgeon. And it has been hard for him in this system to, function as I think a loving provider, because, there's the insurance, there's the, people, trying to, just, it's just really hard for a lot of doctors. And I think that there are a lot of MDs who are out there working through their hearts. But I also I agree, some, and not just doctors, but people in the world are just working for a paycheck.
I'm with both of you guys on this, and I can appreciate where your friend's coming from, Jeana. I'm sure that between having to pay for the healthy insurance premiums and also being limited as to what he may be able to do under everyone's different health care coverages, that he can't actually provide what he wants to provide in all instances because the system has his hands tied. So it's not the care that is the primary concern. And it is his, but in the system itself, it's not the care that's the primary concern, but the procedures and the money and the controls, the people who are controlling the strings. But I'm kind of a lucky one. Many of you know that I worked with law firms and in corporate legal departments for about 20 years, and then I went off and started my own company for about 8 years, and in both cases, I got to a saturation point. I became a paralegal right out of college because my parents wanted me to have a job that I could always fall back on. At first, they wanted me to be a secretary because they figured, and they made me learn how to type at 15. I had to spend my summers learning how to type, which I'm eternally grateful for because I was able to get on computers before the average person. But they wanted stability, and as a paralegal, you can get a job as a paralegal like a nurse anywhere, anytime, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then as I moved up the ranks, so to speak, I just got to a saturation point where I couldn't take I'm trying to find a polite word. I couldn't take the bullshit. I couldn't take the false faces, the propaganda, all the stuff.
Right.
And so I started my own company, and then I also got to a saturation point because it was exhausting work, and I had a passion for it, but it was extremely challenging for me to find people who would work with me who had the same passion. They were, they did what most people did, is when your back is turned, they're on the phone or, just messing around or whatever. And I really had a shoestring budget, so I couldn't afford, I needed for them to work as hard as I did and for all of us to love it. So I ultimately did almost all the work month after month by myself, and were very successful and had a lot of prominence. We were featured in a lot of in a lot of different ways. But again, it didn't matter at the end of the day whether I worked for an extremely prestigious law firm, and that I had a high position, or that I owned my own company and that we were very successful, because I just wasn't happy. I was working and working and working and very successful, and I wasn't happy. And when I sold that company, I was lucky enough to make enough money that I didn't have to work for a few years. And I also had, simultaneous to having my company, I used to build websites and create all kinds of products and services for myself and for other people. So I had residuals coming in from all of those, and I still do to this day have residuals coming in from those things. So I finally was able to, at almost simultaneous with what I'll call my awakening, which Chris was about the same time as yours. It was May of 2009. I think you said yours was March of 2009. And I've been extremely lucky that I do what I want to do. And I haven't stopped working because I love what I do. I love photoshopping images, and I love taking pictures, and I love the creative process. I write short stories. I help other people publish. I do book covers, and I absolutely love the work that I do. I also do social media management for a number of people because I love helping them become successful and use all my skills to do it. And I'm very, very lucky that I do actually wake up every day, and if everything changed tomorrow and there was no money, I'd still be doing the same thing. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that after I went through my awakening, and because I was lucky enough to have, some money available to me, that I refused to ever settle again. And you'd be surprised, the money always comes. I don't care what has happened to me, the money has always come since that point, and I've continued to do what I want. And I think that if people can get past the fear and allow themselves the pleasure of doing what they want, there may be a little point where they feel like, they're falling, but you have to fall a little bit to get to the other side. And when you're on the other side, I'm telling you, the money always comes, the resources that you need always come, the connections that you need always come, and it's because you're like in this ascended zone.
You're right, absolutely.
Have any of you guys had that experience?
Totally, Barbara. Just something I've always wanted to do along with my horses is photography. And, I started with my camera and got that. And for my birthday this past, I told my husband, all I want is Lightroom, right? That's all I want. You know what? The door has cracked open. I lose time. I get in there with the pictures. I'm editing and I'm doing photoshopping, and I lose track of time. The day is over. Some days I start in my jammies and it's 5 o'clock in the evening and I'm still in my jammies doing this. And I totally, you're right on it. You are. The money does come, but it's not about the money, right? You're doing it because you totally love it. And so your work that you do, Barbara, is going to be, it doesn't matter if there are thousands of other people out there doing it. Your work will be unique because you're doing it from your heart.
Right.
Right? It's from the heart. And that's why those other jobs from the law firm, that they weren't working from the heart. You were just putting in time. And so it does become about a paycheck. So now that you've stepped into it, and I've seen this happen so often, and often with women, because they've taken menial jobs doing, what's expected, and they've had enough. They've found the courage to just walk away from it, and it works. They've all landed on their feet, and they're all doing things that they love, and the money comes.
That's
so
one of those things that I like the quote from Neil Donald Walsh, where he said that unless you're following your passion, you're not making a living. It's not a living, it's a dying. And I feel that a lot of, I felt that dying feeling when you're going to a job that you absolutely hate, and it's Sunday evening, and you know that Monday is the first day of work week, and you get that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, oh God, I've got to go back there. You're literally, it's like dying. It's just, this horrible feeling. But as interesting as this conversation is going, and I like where it's going, we're going to continue this on the other side of a little music break. We're going to take about a 5.5-minute music break. So if anyone wants to go get coffee, tea, have a cigarette, whatever, please do so now, and we will come back on the other side. Is that okay with you?
Sounds good. And think about the intent, guys. What intent are we going to set for this week?
Yes.
Good point.
We'll get on that right after the other side of the break.
All right. Sounds good.
See you there.
camera per una settimana. Una cartina della metropolitana. Una camera per una settimana. Una cartina della metropolitana. Una camera per una settimana.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Collective Imagination. We're back on the other side of our break. For all of those who are just tuning in, we've been having a really great conversation about the changing energies and how it's affecting each and every one of us. We'd like for all of you to join in the conversation. If you're tuning in, you can call in at 646-716-4598. Or if you have Skype, you can hit the little Skype button and join us in our discussion. As a lead-in on this side of the topic, we had two questions from the chat room. One from Lisa. You know, what is the difference between an awakening and being awake? For me, an awakening is when you realize that you were asleep. And being awake is your life afterwards, after that perception. You know, for me, the awakening happened, you know, I would say probably like around 95 was when I had my profound awakening, where I realized that I was more than what I was, and there was more to what was going on than what I was being told, and that basically everything that I had grown up and taught and understood to be true was in fact not true. And my period of being awake is living in that knowledge. That's how I would describe it. Does anyone else want to chime in on that?
Yeah, and I know they wanted to hear from Chris as well. It's just Chris had to step away. He'll be back in a moment. My feelings are the same as Bob's. For me, I had this profound experience around the time that my mom died. And her passing actually, I'll call it a transition. Daniel Brinkley said, it's not a passing. They didn't die. They transitioned. So my mom's transition created an opening for me where I began to see the world differently, and my synchronicities began. And I just realized I had this knowing that there were things going on in this world that were above and beyond anything that I had ever been told. And I couldn't deny from the experiences that I had that they were not the normal things that people talk about, that people would have thought I was off my gourd. And I was always, creative and a free thinker and all of that, but I was also very structured and organized. I had to kind of be in the jobs that I had. And this was not that, it didn't follow those patterns. So once I could not deny through these synchronistic events that the world just isn't what we're told it is, that's when I then was awake. My awakening was the experiences that made me realize that the world is much more than we think that it is, and then just being awake, is, like Bob said, has been my life after that.
Right. It's like you're being forced to take notice of what is going and being in the present and going, okay, no, that wasn't just a coincidence.
Right.
That meant something, and then finding the meaning. And when you find the meaning, you go, oh, wow, holy crap, you know?
Well,
and it's awesome.
For me, that some of them were so in my face that I couldn't deny them. And I thought they all had meaning, and maybe for some they do. I actually find that some of mine are just for fun, or just, to make me smile or laugh. They don't all have meaning, but the ones that do have meaning, I get it. I almost get it right away, or I get it within a few days after I've had a chance to kind of settle with it, or live with it for a while to see what, comes of it.
Right.
And I'll give you just one real quick one. And this is one of so many that I couldn't even begin. After my mom died, I came back to New York and was here for a few weeks, and then returned to Indiana for another couple of months to help settle my mom's affairs and figure out what we wanted to do with all of her stuff, etc. And as I'm going through my mom's box of sewing materials to make sure that there's nothing personal in there, as we had advertised for free on Craigslist and the local free cycle there, her sewing machine. And with the sewing machine, we were giving away these boxes of, all the things she had that went with it, threads and bobbins and, ribbons and stuff. And I thought I'd better just look through it just in case there's something in there that, doesn't belong there. And as I'm going through this box, I'm looking meticulously at each little thing and either putting them in a pile where they're going to be put back in the box, or putting them in a pile where they're going to get thrown away. I did not find anything private, but I had found a piece of paper. It was a newspaper article that was, yellowed, and it looked like it was just being used like you do when you pack a box to make sure that, things don't move in there. And I didn't even really look at it. I just went, oh, well, this is just, an old piece of paper. And I wadded it up and tossed it to the side. And I went, you know what? I better look at that and just make sure it's not some kind of an article about how to sew something or, And I went back and I grabbed it and opened it up, and it was from 1976, and it was an Ann Landers news clipping. On the other side, it was just ads or something. And I thought, I better at least read the first one because maybe this has to do with sewing. So I read the first one. It had nothing to do with sewing, and this is how I knew when it had been published, because she was talking about the bicentennial. She said, the bicentennial is just around the corner, yada, yada, yada. And then she quotes this about 8-stanza, very oblique poem. And I went, well, this has nothing to do with sewing, and I wadded it back up, put it in the pile, and, finished up that job, took all the trash and put it in the kitchen bin. And by this time, we did not have television. My sister and I had decided to go ahead and disconnect the cable. But I did have Internet access through Wi-Fi, and so I thought, let me try this new thing I've heard about called Netflix. And it was new to me anyway. So I didn't really know how it worked. And I signed up for an account, and I turned it on, and I didn't even know how to even kind of begin to figure out what I wanted to watch. But I saw they were recommending some movies. So I just clicked on one, and it was a movie, I can't even think of it. I can see his face. Oh, gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the movie. But it was a movie where about 12 minutes into the movie, the famous actor who is the lead, this was his daughter, and she was doing a speech in front of the class at her school, and it was about being a patriot. And I guess it was election time. And so she does this speech, and I'm sitting there, I have an apple or something, and I'm watching this, and all of a sudden she starts saying that very unusual poem, and I went, what? And I stopped, and I thought, that sounds just like that poem, and I went in the other room, and I grabbed it, and I came back and opened it, and sure enough, as she spoke, I'm reading word for word the poem that was in this Ann Landers. Wow. And I've never heard it before, and I've never heard it since, and simply the fact that those two events happened within about a half an hour of one another, I just went, that is cool. That is not status quo. There's no way that could just have happened, especially since I was just going to throw the paper away, and I just got the strange, eerie feeling to grab it again. And then I would pick, this would be the movie that I would end up selecting, et cetera, et cetera. And those were the kind of events that were just so in your face that you could not ignore them. Mm-hmm. And that was the awakening experience. And after that, I realized I'm awake.
Wow. That'll do it. What a good one. Yeah, you can't argue it. You can't argue it. It's just so
maybe
obvious.
That is sort of the intent. What do you think? To make things more obvious to people, because there are questions I'm seeing in the chat room. I think that most people in the chat room are sort of, I would say, awake, but they're sort of not sure of themselves.
Are they afraid? Are people afraid?
I think a lot of people are afraid, yes. Mm-hmm. I do. I think that waking up takes a brave soul.
So let's combine the intent with people able to drop the fear in everything. I think that's a block with people, regardless of...
Removing a block, okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
That sounds like a possibility. We can do that. Chris, do we have you back?
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's back yet.
No, I actually am back.
There you are, Chris.
Indeed.
Were you listening? Did you hear the topic? We were talking about what it was. Well, we were just now talking about our intent, and we thought perhaps we would get rid of all of the blockages and fears that keep people from living an awake life and doing what they know that they need to do.
I heard that, and yeah, I completely agree. That's a great thing to do. The key thing we were referring to before when speculating about how this event will unfold, the negative side of it is all fear-based, fear-generated. And if we remove that, then the chaos assumes a different kind of energy, and we can help one another far more easily.
Which goes into the second question I wanted to get to, because I really wanted to address this.
I just wanted to let you know that we also have an additional caller. They can hear us now. Code 717.
That's me, buddy.
Who's me?
Hello?
Yeah, who's me?
Oh, I don't know. I thought I was just listening in though.
If you want to just listen, that's fine. If you have a comment, feel free, to add your comment. Otherwise, we'll just let you listen.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Jamie Rivera Flores asks, we're assuming that money will be gone, but we will still need to have some kind of trade or bartering. What if there's no need for that anymore after the event? What if we just extend our hand and food appears? As far as trade is concerned, and I think one of the most profound things that I found in my awakening was the things that we're really after is not tangible. The things that what really makes us happy is the exchange is energy. When you do something for another person, whatever it is that your passion is, let's say you love to cook, okay? You love to cook, you love getting into the kitchen, you love making things taste wonderful. That's your passion. And let's say that you engage in your passion and you make this wonderful meal, and you spent all of the time and you cooked it with love, and you feed it to your guests, your friends. And then as they're eating, you hear the comments, oh my God, this is so good, this is delectable. And people are just, enjoying the richness of the meal that you've prepared. And you get comments and you get invitations, and they say, I want you to do the meal for my wedding. There is no one else that I can think of, to cook a meal for me on that special day than you. How do you feel? It's that feeling that we're after. It's that exchange, that wonderful human exchange of energy that we're all looking for, that feeling of fulfillment when you move out of your passion and someone else appreciates it.
Yeah.
And you feel that exchange of energy. That is what people live for. That's what they really, really want. And isn't that enough? Do we really need to?
It is, yeah. It fills you with gratitude, right?
Exactly. And that's what it is that we're looking for, people. That's what real fulfillment of life is. We're not after material things. These things really don't have any meaning in our lives unless we can share it with someone that we love. And that's what it is. We're all about the exchanging the energy of love, and in different ways. And it can be done with a smile. It can be done with a meal. It can be done with whatever passion that it is that you have. If it's making music, if it's working with wood, if it's gardening, whatever it is that you do, and you offer it, and others appreciate it, truly appreciate it.
Right, and it's more than it's more than just people that you love. It's actually being the love that you are in putting it into what you do, and actually expanding them. And when you see and feel another person expand because of something you did or something you said that made them just blossom and bust out, that's it. I mean, that is
it. If you do it with your love, no matter what it is you do,
Right,
they're
and it makes somebody else
that energy of love in it, right? If it's food you make with that love and passion, they're not just eating a good meal, but they're receiving that love and energy, that passion in that food. It's like somebody that's making food that's angry. Those people are eating a lot of trauma. I wouldn't want to eat it. But if you receive something from anybody that is infused with that love, it's just tenfold. Right. It's beyond appetite. If we're speaking food, it isn't even about, filling your stomach. It's that energy that you're getting. That's where.
Right. It expands you. You actually kind of blossom forth because somebody. Yeah, the love energy is a viable thing. It really is.
Like right now, I love this, what we're doing, because we're all feeling the words from each other. We all know what each other is getting at.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
And by the way, I'm not getting paid for this. None of us are. We're doing this because this is what we do. This is what I love to do. I love conversations. I love helping people to, open up their perspectives and have mine opened up by other people. I love learning new things and I love teaching new things. This is my passion. And I would do it whether I was paid or not because it's what I love to do. And this is what everyone's got to find. And maybe we can help people, we can include this in our intention, that people can really move into their passion. Move into, to remove that fear and move into your passion. Move into the life that you really feel empowered to live. And
make it known that it is valuable, has huge value.
And for us to be doing that intent at this time, I think it's timely. I think it's the perfect time. Can you imagine people hooking into what their passion is, their love, at this point in time? Wow.
Chris, you're quite quiet. Okay, maybe Chris is a little busy. Well, what do you think? Do you think that's a good intention, Barbara? Can we go forward with that?
I do. Yeah. I wanted to say first, though, that we do have another caller with area code 850. Caller, are you there?
Yes, this is Jamie.
Oh, hey, Jamie.
I just wanted to ask you if, I was the one who proposed probably not having the need to exchange things, and I already listened to the response. The idea of proposing this was to find an alternate way for not using money. And I understand the exchange of energy and the gratitude and all of that, and I believe that would still be possible. But I also believe that if we do not have some kind of global awareness, it would be very difficult for some people to, for example, not have money and still find a place to live, for example,
Let me ask you
an apartment.
Let me ask you this, Jamie.
Yeah.
What if, just what if, everything was free? Whatever it is that you needed, you can pick up. Whatever it is that you wanted, you could just go and pick it up. Number one, there'd be no need to steal. Because what's the point? Everything is free. There'd be no need to hoard. Because what's the point? Everything is free. There'd be no need to, to engage in anything but your passion, because what would be the motivation when everything is free? Once you start to, you realize that there really is no need for any sort of exchange, because once you understand that we're all here living together, that I want to provide for you whatever it is that you need to do what you do so that you can do it the best way that you can. Because you doing what you love to do and doing it better than anyone else is going to be the most productive thing that you can do. And how do I know? I don't know what's going to come out of it. You may be the next Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know. But I'm going to make sure that you have everything that you need to do what you need to do. You know, Barbara, whatever it is that you love to do, we want to make sure that you have everything that you need to do it. Till the earth runs out of resources, and understand how rich the earth is. It's not being utilized the way that it could be. Everyone could have everything that they need in order so that they can fulfill their passion. And how many more Leonardo da Vinci's do you think we'll find? How many more Mozarts? How many more Einsteins? How many more Nikola Teslas would come out of that? And whatever it is that they produce would be shared amongst everyone. And guess what? For free. That's the world I want. That's the world I envision.
I actually think of two things with respect to this conversation. One is when if everything were free, there will be people who want to run the grocery store because that's their passion, who want to, make sure that they pump the gas because they really enjoy that so that it frees them up for something else. So I still think the resources that we need will still be made available to us by people who want to do that. And the second thing is, if you think about what the two energy guys are always talking about, Michael and Peter, I think there will also be an element sprinkled into it that if we can imagine it, it can be true. So if somebody says, yeah, this house is free, but I don't like this house. I want that house on the beach. And 250 million other people say, I want a house on the beach like that too. They can't all have that house, but that doesn't mean that they can't envision it and it will just be. I think there's an element of that eventually, whether it's here in the short term or, over the long haul, that we as humans will rise to.
Mm-hmm. Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, well, the only element that I wanted to make sure that everybody understood is for everything to be free, we need to have this kind of global awareness. Everything could be free right now, but a lot of people do not want that to be the truth. So something has to happen so that we all decide that everything is free.
Yeah, my view on what our guest just said is fairly similar. Except for this, there's a small group of people who don't want everything to be free. This is my view. Who are keeping a very large number of people in ignorance about it. But there is a very, very much a growing element who are aware of what's going on. And in fact, one of the things that Bob and I have become aware of more recently is that there is a mechanism within the system now which, if invoked, would effectively make everything free. And they could do it tomorrow. It could happen that quickly. It's not a pipe dream. Now, whether it takes a day or a month or a year to do that, beyond whatever the event is, I can't tell you, but I just have a knowing that's what we're going to end up with. So the more smoothly we can get there, the least amount of disruption and chaos it takes us from get from where we are to where we could be, the better. Which is why I think the intent of removing fear from this process is really a good one.
Except is that the only thing I wanted to say about removing fear as the intent, I'm not sure that in all cases that's our place to do, and that because those fears, the things that you experience, sometimes are the catalyst that open the doors to allow you to see where you do want to go. And I'm not sure that we may not, in trying to collectively hew those fears, that we're not removing somebody's opportunity to, become enlightened or awakened or experience something that they need to along their own journey. What are your thoughts on that?
or maybe to for people to be receptive to that that block of fear to be removed. Like, for instance, my whole life, from child up until present, practically, fear of spiders. I mean, a lot of people do. Mine was just very high on the scale. I became more and more aware of it in the years just recent. For the past month, I wasn't really aware of it at first, and I noticed that it's like somebody disengaged the wire out of my head, the fear wire. And it doesn't mean I want to sit down in a box of spiders, but that freak out feeling is gone. I can sweep them off a blanket. What happened? It was like literally someone just pulled that wire out, because I looked, it's gone.
Well, Bob, then going back to you and our intent meditation, you've listened to all the things that we've said, and you've also talked about your own with respect to love and energy. I trust you. I believe that you will lead the meditation that encompasses all of those in some way for all of us. So anytime you're ready, let me know, and I'll get the music going.
Okay. Let's go. I want everyone to focus on their breathing. And out. Feel with each breath the energy moving into your body from all directions, from all around. Breathe it in. Let it infuse you. Let it enrich your soul. Let it empower you. Feel the tingling as it moves through your body, invigorating you, enlivening you. As that energy builds up inside you, it begins to pulse with your heart. Feel that pulsation as it radiates out, as you are pulling energy in and radiating it out effortlessly, in a natural rhythm, a natural breathing. You feel elated, relaxed. This energy pours out into the room, into your environment. It is reaching all the nether places, all that is dark in your life is now being illuminated with this light that is pouring out from you. All of the obstacles in your way that keep you from living your life are clearly seen now. Imagine this light going out, moving out into the universe, showing you all the different things available to you. Understand this light will be your guide. All of the things that are part of your vision or passion are now being highlighted by this light, this energy that's going out of you. Each point, like a glowing ball in the cosmos, are being lit up one at a time. Each experience you wish to have being lit up one at a time. Imagine these spheres are now pulsating with the same radiance as you. Now, Each of these glowing balls of experience that we wish to have in our lives are now empowered with your essence. And we want to bring these spheres back into us. Bring these experiences to us. Easily moving past all the obstacles, feel this coming back into your soul. Know that it is there, available when you are ready to experience it. It will be there for you. It is lighted for you and empowered for you to experience. Pull that into you, into your heart, and feel the bliss, the wonderful freeness of the life that you choose. Now I want you to pour this energy, this feeling, this power, this glowing light, pour it down through your body and anchor it into the earth, beneath the feet that you walk, where you sit, where you lay. Feel it grounding into the earth itself. Feel it moving through the ground, through the roots, trees. Feel it moving through the rock, through the stone, into the heart of earth itself. Yes. And feel the earth now pulse with your intention. Know that this intention will present itself for you in the proper time. In the proper time for your experience, it is there for you to experience. Always there beckoning you and leading you forward through all the obstacles you have seen. Understand that it is these lighted ways that are at the end of your journey. This blissful passion. This is your future. And so it is.
Nice.
Oh, I gotta catch a breath. Somebody's gonna have to talk for a second.
Thank you.
Barbara, thank you, Bob. That was very nice. Barbara, I just wanted to say I certainly take your point that we, in essence, have no spiritual right to be unduly affecting people's journeys. In all things, that's something that, as I said to Bob before the show, I've got my spiritual L plates on. It's something I have to remind myself of when I try to actually resist the urge to convince my family member of some detail of life that they don't want to get their heads around.
Yeah, good point.
I think that I really believe in synchronicity, and I think that the ones who are ready for this meditation, those are the ones who are going to hear it. Those are the ones who will find it in the archive. And the ones who participated or chose to participate in it tonight are the ones who have made that choice. I believe that everything will, synchronize in its own appropriateness. I believe the universe does that for us.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's a whole lot of infringing on people's free will to, buck the system or whatever. If if I don't know, if people, are on board or whatever, or want to be awake and aware, like, Chris said, he feels like he's kind of infringing. It's like they'll just tune you out. It's done.
They'll find their way the way we did, right?
I find that happen a lot. Sometimes when I'm talking and we're getting, somebody will, I have a bunch of people over and somebody will ask me a question, and I'll start, answering, from my spirit. And the ones who are in tune will all be enraptured in what's going on and what's being said and joining in the conversation. And the ones who aren't, you can tell right away because they're right at their cell phones, they're texting, or they just walk out. Their phone will ring and they'll excuse themselves. It always happens. It always happens.
Right on.
So did everyone get all of their experience out? What did everyone experience during the meditation?
Yeah, that was awesome.
I did.
I come out of that with a big smile.
I was also thinking as you were leading us that the focus of it being more on us individually to, get what we want out of it actually has a collective element to it, because as we each become more grounded and find our experiences and awaken in our peace and our, all the things that you were mentioning, that then puts us in a position where we energetically exude that so that all of those we come in contact with will be exposed to it, whether they want to or not. Just like light coming off of a light bulb, the energy is going to be coming off of us, and that ultimately will, impact them. So all of us are like little energetic light bulbs, dripping, goodwill on people like honey.
I love the visual with that, Barbara.
All those little energy packets that we infused in the earth will pop up right when they're supposed to, right in front of you, wherever on the planet you happen to be. They will pop up, and you'll recognize them. You'll see them.
I love it.
And one of the most interesting things about the next 3 weeks is the possibility of that whole process being given an enormous shot of juice, like putting the pedal to the metal in your car. I'm speculating here, of course, but that's what I feel is going to be part of this whole sequence of events in the next few months.
And I think it's really important to hold those visions, Chris. I really, really do. I think it's very, very important during this time, this great energetic shift, that we all hold that vision of what is possible, and we've me and Chris and Barbara and all of us, we've had these conversations off air. It can be a very wonderful and peaceful and beautiful transition. For those of us who consider ourselves awake, it's important for us to take responsibility for that awareness. And I believe it's really, really our responsibility to hold that vision for the earth and hold that vision for the future, as so many indigenous people have been doing it for us for so many years in the past. Now we add our own essence, our own energies to this whole development. We add our own intentions to it. We add our beingness to the beings of the planet and to that natural rhythm. And I think that, rather than focusing on what they're feeding in propaganda news and what they're feeding, in politics and all this other stuff, it's important for us to maintain that positive vision for our futures, because it does have a market. Intentions will not be felt any stronger than any other period unless you're willing to wait here another 26,000 years.
I like what BeLove. I like what BeLove in chat said. She said, intensifying even.
Yes.
BeLove's actually a man. Just thought I'd say.
All right.
Yeah, well, because I completely agree with Bob. If we are co-creating, which is exactly the process he just described, then we have to take responsibility for it and consciously do it. And we know that it would be a far easier transition if there were far more people awake, but that's what's happening. So we'll deal with it and we'll do what we need to do.
Something that you said, something that you did, or some gesture that you made came back to you and actually told you the difference that you made in your life. I think a lot of people would feel a lot more fulfilled. I make it a point to make sure that I tell everybody, all the experiences of my life, even the ones who play villains in my life, if it's possible, I can reconnect with these people and thank them. And it's been a very, very powerful thing for me, something that you may not even have thought of twice about. Saved someone's life. And you never can tell when that happens. You can never be sure. But I know it happens. I know it does. Or no?
I'm with you.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, I was telling, it may have even been Jeana the other day, that nothing really bothers me, not even the negative stuff, because whether it's getting stuck in the line or having card trouble or whatever it may be, I always think that it's either I'm being held back because something cool is waiting for me, like a rainbow or something really neat that I wouldn't have seen if I left early, or I'm part of somebody else's journey, and it requires me to have my car break down so that the guy comes to repair it because he's going to do X, which is going to affect this person, who's going to affect that person. I'm involved in somebody else's journey. So the negative
the bigger
stuff,
plan.
Yeah, the negative stuff is cool. I'm like, woo, I'm on board.
Yep, I feel the same, Barbara. It's like even if you're in a hurry and you're heading out and the train is going by and you can't get anywhere, and then the next thing you know, someone's blocking the road up the way. I just strongly feel that it is a shift in your timeline for a reason. There's a bigger plan, and we just go with the flow. Yeah, exactly.
None of that stuff bothers me.
It's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more fun.
That's the perspective to have. That's the right way to go, for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Roll with it. Be aware of the possibilities, and roll with it.
And in those moments of clarity where you get that fullness of awareness, those where you touch that perfect thing, you see it. You see that whole big picture. You see how everything is perfect. Everything is where it should be. Everything is developing exactly the way that it has to. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, very confident that things will develop just the way that they're supposed to, and we're running out of time. So, Barbara, if there's any cleanup announcements that we need to be aware of?
Nope, just keep an eye out on the Facebook page for The Collective Imagination, which is facebook.com/The Collective Imagination, for the 12/12 through 12/21 countdown information.
Yeah. What is the time frame, real quick?
It'll be on. It's easier to post it, and everybody can see it there.
Okay.
But before we go, I want to thank both you, Jeana, and who else was on?
Diane.
And who else? Jamie, for calling in. And we encourage more of you to do that in the future. Join us. We won't bite. We'll have a good time.
No,
I know. Thank you so much.
I'm so
honored.
Very. I've enjoyed it. The energy in the group. I really feel we can say that we're part of the family of light, because we are family, and we're definitely putting out the light. Not putting out the light, putting the light out there. Out there. You know what I mean.
And we'll be back next week. Please tune in. Tuesday night at 8 p.m. I guess it's 10 a.m. or I forget what time it is in Australia. But we will be back next week. And we hope that everyone will tune in, tell your friends, and we will see you next week.
Take care, everybody.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.